Welcome to We Make Children's Books, a podcast that takes you through the imaginative minds of children's book authors and artists. I'm your host, Barney Smith of StoryComic.com, and we're excited to have with us the internationally acclaimed and talented comic creator, Samuel Vera.
Hey, what's up?
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah.
Great. So before we went live, we were talking about that you are now, as of this recording, you are now at the Puerto Rico Comic Con. Is that correct?
Yes, it's my first time here. I'm actually in my hotel room right now. I just finished setting up my booth. That was an ordeal in itself, but so I finished setting up my booth, and so I'm back at the hotel, doing some art commissions, getting them ready for tomorrow. The venue's humongous. They have some really big, giant booths. I mean, it looks like the Puerto Rico Comic Con's version of a New York Comic Con. I would love to see the scale of the crowd tomorrow. Let me just go to this. I looked up the Puerto Rico Comic Con. It looks like a really humongous event. I've never been to it. I've been to an event in Puerto Rico ever. And so I was like, you know what? Let's roll the dice and let's see what happens. And let's have some fun.
You're going to be promoting your There's an Alien in My Toilet Volume 1 as well while you're there, correct?
Well, I'll be promoting the Kickstarter from the show, yes.
Right.
So,
okay.
I have the first 4 books with me, but I'm promoting the graphic novel at the venue too. So hopefully that goes well. Hopefully I get some excitement around my booth. I mean, I have a nice booth. It's not like the artist alley here, their booths, which is fantastic. So I have a 10 by 10 space. I have plenty of room. I have really cool neighbors next to me. The competition is thick. I was looking at all the people that are around. There's a lot of talent. So hopefully their fans come over and see this crazy dude from Texas that just popped in unannounced, working on my Spanglish,
Right.
because everybody's speaking in Spanish, and man, am I struggling, but I'm having fun.
Is Doodie, do you actually have like a Spanish translated version of your comic book available?
No, not yet. So the
Okay.
only book I ever converted to Spanish was my book Forbidden, and that was years ago. But right now, what I'm trying to do is build a demand for Doodie.
Okay.
And social media, it's very limited on really connecting with people because it's a saturated platform. So.
Right.
I need to get out into. That's why I wanted to do Puerto Rico. I want to go to as many venues as possible and meet people face to face and let them see the character, let them talk to me, hopefully pick up the product. I have tons of prints, I have keychains, I have buttons, I have stickers, all centered around Doodie. And it's a Doodie extravaganza. So I'm hoping that over here that they fall in love with the character as much as I do.
I have been a fan of Doodie since day one. Once you were on over like 100 episodes ago when we were talking about Doodie. And for those that might be unfamiliar with Doodie, you want to give people a little bit of background on the comic book?
Yes, his name is Doodarious Uranius, and his name is Doodie. He's from the planet Uranus. He's the son of the Emperor, and basically, because his father's the Emperor of Uranus, Doodie is sheltered, and he's led to believe that he's the smartest, most advanced thing. He's daddy's boy, and so he has this larger than life persona, and so he oversteps, right? So he eats with his eyes, and so he wants to go on these daring adventures to prove to his father, to live up to his father's expectations. So he ends up there's a general goatee that is basically responsible for Doodie's protection. And so,
Okay.
but he's a little annoyed by Doodie because Doodie could be a little overbearing. So he sends Doodie on a fool's errand. He says, "Oh, no harm's going to come from this." And Doodie goes half-witted straight to Earth, and he forgets to refuel, so he crash lands on Earth. And now he finds himself having to survive Earth's simple creatures, eventually getting into a house where there's a family there, there's a father and son, and there's a Chihuahua named Herman who thinks Doodie's a talking jalapeno. And so he's going after Doodie, but and now with issue 5, which is in the graphic novel, we introduce Patrick, which is Bobby's best friend. Bobby's a gamer, and Bobby believes he's seen something, and his dad doesn't believe him, so he calls his buddy Patrick. So they're on the hunt. You have Agent Doe, works for a government agency that's out hot on Doodie's trail.
Uh-huh.
You have the dad, who is really getting annoyed by Herman and his son. Herman constantly barking, and the son, saying that there's something in the house. So the father's the butt of jokes from his buddies at work. And there's also now the emperor's questioning, where's my son? So now General Goatee has to go back and retrieve Doodie and bring him back home to Uranus. So all worlds are colliding, and you get a taste of that in issue 5.
So what was some of your inspiration? Because you've been working on this. This is basically a retelling because you already wrote this out already for like 20 years ago or so, right? Is that
Yeah, so in 2005, I created Doodie, and I decided to self-publish, and to a lot of success. So, I got picked up by a management company, the same company that represent Robert Kirkman, the Wachowski brothers, The Matrix, The Walking Dead, all that stuff. And they were pitching, and we had some open door meetings with Disney and Warner Brothers. But during that time, management changed. So that was the time when there was Kids WB. And
Right.
so, and we thought we were close, and then they changed leadership and they canceled Kids WB. And the same thing with Disney, they changed leadership and they brought. So whenever they do that, anything that was on the table gets trashed, and they go a different direction with a new guidance. So that was a little frustrating. But back then, I only did the first 5 issues, but the 3, 4, and 5 are very different from the ones that I produce now, because I redrew everything, I recolored everything,
Okay.
and I adjusted things. And there's some new characters, like Patrick's a new character in the story, and back then, it was distributed in Borders, Barnes and Nobles, the bookstores, the Walmarts, and I was got a lot of press. It was on we were on local and national television, and but when all the deals dropped and everything fell to the wayside, the pressure of doing comics and the amount of money I was spending, which was my own hard-earned money because I had a full-time job, was taking a toll on my family. So I had to give it up, and I walked away from comics for 10 years. So when I decided to come back, Doodie was always calling to me. I came back and I started Catch the Crazies, and then Forbidden. But I was like, you know what? I need to finish Doodie. I need to finish the story. So from now until as long as I can do it, Doodie's my primary focus.
Right. Okay. One of the things that you're talked about on here is that if somebody's interested in just getting issue number 5, they can, correct?
It's an add-on, yes.
Okay.
So there's 2 ways to get issue number 5. You can get a digital version right now, because I'm really focusing on the graphic novel.
Right.
Or you can add it on, or if we unlock the top tier, the stretch goal, then it unlocks it and everyone can add that on. But if we do get funded by Saturday, 5 people will be put into a raffle and get the issue 5.
Okay.
So I'm going to pull 5 names from the backers, physical backers. So if we get funded by Saturday, 5 physical backers and I'll announce it on Cast the Craze podcast. I'll do the spin the wheel and throw the names in there and see who comes up, and 5 people will get it.
Nice. Right.
But
And I see that you got the podcast sponsor deal there too. I'm always a fan of the podcast sponsor deal. So yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. It's I think Paul Gomez just scooped up one of them. I think yesterday. But the podcast is growing nicely. I'm excited about that. The views have been growing. We get a lot of audio listeners that don't translate onto YouTube, but a lot of them have been, because I've been talking about, if you're listening to us on Spotify or Pandora or iHeartRadio, come over to the YouTube channel, subscribe. So that's been happening. So a lot of our listeners who didn't, they prefer to listen because whether they're driving to work or whatever, they never really went to the YouTube channel ever. And so we're getting a lot of those transferring over and just supporting and just subscribing. They might not get engaged during the live streams, but they went over because they like the show and they subscribed.
What's different about this Kickstarter, because as compared to some of your previous Kickstarters?
This is the most important one because this is the one that is going to go into stores. So this is the one that I want to be able to at the end of the year have it in time for Christmas. I'm shooting for in time for Christmas, if not the New Year. But to have it in stores, this campaign, I'm really looking at backer count because there's a lot of interest in Doodie, but everyone looks at the demand, right? So they go straight to Kickstarter to see how it's trending, to see if there's a big enough demand. So one of the things I did, I feel very honored that the publishers at A Kid in a Comic reached out to me because they saw Doodie, they picked up Doodie from the Kickstarter, and they wanted it in their newspaper.
Okay.
And so I am one of the I guess lesser known amongst a bunch of veterans in this newspaper. There's about over 30 creatives in this newspaper, and it's all about comic strips and activities and games. And it's a subscription-based newspaper, and it's also going to be available in stores. So you can subscribe through their website, and the newspaper gets delivered to your home 7 times a year.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and it's filled with 30 different comic strips, and Doodie's one of them. So Doodie has a comic strip in it, and I'm excited about that. And the money the funds raised go to 2 different charities, which is awesome. And so I was excited to be a part of it. And they already have the first 2 strips for the first 2 papers, and I'm working on the other strips. And so that's another way of just getting more exposure for Doodie. And I'm looking at working with local comic book stores to do some in-store signings very soon. So there's some things that I'm working on to really grassroots stuff. I'm hitting the pavement, going out there and just trying to connect with people.
No, because that's something similar to what you were doing before with you had a charitable piece for your previous Kickstarters as well, right?
Yes. So yeah, the last few Kickstarters I donated. The backers had an option to buy a book for themselves or buy 5 books to go to comic book for kids.
Right.
Yes. Yep. And I didn't do it for the graphic novel because it's a big ticket item, and I didn't want people to feel pressure. But I will be bringing it back for issue 6 on the next campaign.
Because I remember that. So this was seems like that's similar in scope with kids and comics, basically, as well.
Well, the difference between comic book for kids is that publishers from all over the world send them books, and it goes directly to kids struggling with cancer in hospitals. A Kid in a Comic, they're raising for, I think there's like a comic book legal defense fund, and for the comic creators they find themselves in a precarious position and don't have the finances to deal with it. So they're doing it's 2 different charities. But if you go to A Kid in a Comic website, it'll tell you all about it.
And as you said, they reached out to you, correct?
Yes, I thought I was being punked. I thought I was a spam. Because I get unsolicited stuff all the time. We can make you a superstar. We can do that, right? And so I basically, poor guys, they could have just walked away from me because I said, I hear this all the time. I said, do me a favor, send me as much detail as possible to this email. I will read it and I'll get back to you. And then I read it, and then I said, all right, here's what I read, and this is these are the questions I have. So we went back and forth. And then eventually, then they sent me the contract. We agreed, and then we went from there. But it took a couple months because I just wasn't very trusted.
Well, hey there. If you're enjoying our podcast, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube or leave us a 5-star review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support means the world to us and helps us keep this show going. We love hearing from you, so any feedback is welcome. And thank you for being a part of our podcast family and for all your support. It truly means a lot to us. So that's interesting. So for those that might be like listening to this, because you're really active within the indie comic scene. You and George with your website and also being with your podcast and YouTube channel. Is this something that your other indie comic creators could reach out to at A Kid in a Comic, or is this kind of like an invite only kind of thing?
I think it was invite. That's how they reached out to me. There's only a couple of other guys that I know there, but J.M. DeSantis it was an invite to him, because the artist was, I guess they reached out to the artist, and the artist needed a or the writer, and the writer reached out to Jam DeSantis. And then he reached out to me asking me questions, but because I had I was under a
NDA.
yes, I couldn't speak about it, so I didn't. I said, look, I have a clause, I can't talk about it, but you should talk to the person who recruited you. So he probably thought I was being standoffish or evasive, but I just didn't know, and I didn't want to be able to talk about things that I felt, because everything was secret until they were able to announce it. From what I understand, they sought him out, and they sought me out.
Okay. You're really excited about this, about putting this together as your first graphic novel, but also you're excited the fact that you'll be able to continue their story as an issue number 5. What are some of your avid Doodie fans can expect with issue number 5?
Issue number 5 it is that shifting moment in the entire series. This is where the heat comes on, right? Because there's 2 arcs to this. There's just 2 volumes to the series. They're both 5 issues each. So this is the first volume, and because There's an End of My Toilet ends with issue 10. The punchline is in issue 10, and you'll understand why the title. But then it goes into Doodie, right? Where it's just Doodie, and then he goes on many adventures. But what's interesting about this one is that you get to see why Doodie. The influences behind who he is, right? You get a little backstory on him. You find out how he really ended up on Earth, right? And it was a joke, it was a joke that they forgot about, and right, until the Emperor starts looking for his son, right? So there's that. Now there's a sense of urgency. Oh, whatever happened to him? Did he even make it to Earth? What's going on, right? And you would think that the Emperor's son, that everyone's going to keep close tabs on him, right? So, but that's how overbearing Doodie is, right? You're like, oh, I just need a break from this kid. So then you have Agent Doe, right? So you'll start seeing, the government that's tracking the UFO. They're rounding up all the witnesses, and the witnesses are all animals, right? So they're scooping up all these animals from the forest that encountered Doodie, right? And then you have what's happening in the house with Bobby and Herman. Then you get introduced to Patrick. Who's Patrick, right? And so there's all these elements, and it's like, so the question becomes like, what? And then it ends on a cliffhanger, and that's what's fantastic about this. So this is because you'll start. There's also a character, the janitor, that you'll find out about. So there's a lot of elements to this. It's a lot of fun. I'm having the best time of my life with it, and I'm excited because I really want comic book stores are more inclined to pick up your graphic novel versus your floppies, right? Because they're looking at margin, right? So they can make more money from that than they can with floppies. So for me, it's like, all right. Once this campaign is over, I'm going to start hitting up all the comic shops in Texas first. I'm going to go door to door, like as a salesman, with my books in the back trunk, and I'm like, hey, you want to carry this? Now, if they say, do you have the floppies as well? That's a bonus. I'll say, well, yeah, you can get you can do 1 floppy a month, and then the graphic novel in month number 6, and so it all depends on how they want to go. But from everyone I've spoken to, they prefer the graphic novel. So I wanted to do this and then hopefully get it in stores by the time Christmas comes.
As I said, I'm reading this. What I really love about your Doodie comic is that it reminds me a lot of reading those Disney kids comics of like DuckTales, or reading one of those and especially I love the literal fun, like the enjoyment that I can see that you do when you're making this comic book, reading with the Chihuahua scenes, where it reminds me a lot of like some of those like Looney Tunes cartoons. Like it's just so much fun reading that. And it really is. I would say that it's like, it reminds me a lot as well as like adults can enjoy this, but kids will really get a kick out of this comic book as well.
Yes, and that's what's fantastic about, because unfortunately, guys like to pretend they're too cool, right? Right. Yeah. But when nobody's looking, they're geeking out, right? So I'm telling you, it's okay to be a kid. It's okay to have fun. When I'm at conventions, it's the adults that are buying it and laughing at it. and
Right.
then they're thinking about the kids afterwards, right?
Right.
So when it's online, people are looking at for their kids, not necessarily for themselves, but when they see it in person, they pick it up and they read those first couple of pages, they start laughing and they go, you know what, I gotta have this, right? And so the age group is so wide that it's just family fun, because
Right.
I grew up, I believe, with the best classic cartoons in the world, right? I grew up with stuff like, you said it, Looney Tunes, Yosemite Sam, Bugs Bunny,
Yeah.
Alf. I mean, I watch
Right.
Alf every day since I've been in Texas. There's a dedicated Alf channel in Texas, and it's the cartoons in the morning and it's the sitcom at night. And I watch Alf all the time, and my wife thinks I'm crazy, but and I still laugh at the same punchlines, right?
Right.
But it's for me, it's that kind of just don't take yourself seriously, be as goofy as possible, and just have fun. And that's what this book is about.
Is that a little bit of like the inspiration for Duty from Alf as well, being an alien on a planet and kind of trying to figure out your own way?
Well, everything. E.T.
Yeah.
E.T. I mean, I cried at E.T. I still cry at E.T. Right? So, what's going to happen. I still bawl, right? So it's just pathetic. So, for E.T. to Alf, Marvin the Martian, I mean,
Oh,
I'm
right.
a big
Marvin the
sci
Martian.
I'm a big sci-fi buff. I love everything space-wise. So for me, it's just I was a big Fraggle Rock fan. I love Fraggle Rock. So goofy, quirky, and the best, the best are the ones that have just that one name, like Google, Doodie, right? So it's like, and he's just fun. He's just fun to draw. He's just he's an extension of me when I was a kid, and I thought I was smarter than everybody, and so it's like, but I walked into walls and I overstepped and I overcommitted, and I had a lot of bumps in the road, and so
Right.
for me, it's just when I write for duty, I'm tapping into my youth and all those emotions and all those feelings and all those experiences that I felt and had, and I just pour it into him.
If a parent is thinking about buying this book for their children, would you say like Duty is a good influence for their
Yes.
6 or 7 or 8 year old?
Yes, because a duty is he has all the anxieties that we all have, right?
Right.
So the anxieties of being the son of the most powerful person on the planet,
Mm.
when he comes from, right? Trying to fill those shoes and live up to those expectations, worried about what other people think about him, right? So he finds refuge in just taking risks and going out there and try. He's really trying to discover himself, and in
Mm.
doing so, he's realizing, hey, wait, I'm not that smart. Hey, wait, I'm not that this, whatever. But he refuses to admit it, right? And he keeps on pushing forward, and he's
Right.
experiencing all these new things he's never experiencing, and he's learning how to adjust and adapt to it. Who that's growing up. That's just a kid growing up, and and then what happens? All of those things that happen when you duty becomes a samurai and he becomes a cowboy, that's in his imagination.
Mm.
That's not actually happening. That's what happens when he falls unconscious, right? And so next thing you know, so whoever it was that caused that to happen, now he's in his REM state. He's dreaming about him being the smarter one, the victor in the
Mm.
series, and taking down his opponent. But in real life, he's always getting taken down. And what's great about the stories are every comic book and even the graphic novel has trivia questions, brain teasers, puzzles, activities. This to encourage learning, education, questioning, retention. Right? There's questions based on the story. It helps if you have a child that that what happens. Everyone has limited attention spans, and you really want them to focus on something. You give them something they
Mm.
might enjoy, and they might start training their brain to start understanding what they've read because they're going to get a question on it. So there's a lot of things, but as far as age, I don't put an age on it. I tell the parent, pick it up, read it, and you decide if you want to give it to your kid based on the age. But
Right.
I can tell you right now, I have parents who have kids as young as 6, 7 that read Duty, um, um, and they love it, and they
Right.
it kept. I mean, I have a really. Her name is Kathy, I met her at a Comic-Con in Texas. She's a cosplayer. She's a grandma, and she picked up Doodie, and she's a fan, and she buys it for herself and for her grandson, and they read Doodie together, and they have fun. She was on the live stream when I did the launch party, and and it's amazing. And it's because she ran into it. She was there for a cosplay contest, saw my booth, said, "What is that about?" and fell in love with it. So, and again, she made the choice as an adult, and then she introduced it to the child because the child's not the one with the money, so the adult has to make the decision. So I always say, make the decision, and then you'll be pleasantly surprised when you read it.
From past Kickstarters, that is there anything specific to this Kickstarter as compared to your previous Kickstarters?
Yeah, this Kickstarter introduced a couple of new things. There's a keychain that I didn't have available in the last Kickstarters. It's the first of its kind. In this Kickstarter, there's also a new print, which is a print version of the cover for the graphic novel. So there's the keychain that, and there's some new jumbo stickers that I introduced in this Kickstarter. They're like
Nice.
almost 5-inch huge stickers, and so those are new. But you can always get never picked up the series and you want to catch up. You can get you're gonna get the graphic novel, or you can add on the single issues. The floppies are all available as well.
Okay.
So there's something for everybody. There's digital rewards that start at $7 and then it goes all the way up. There's a super bundle. There's original art, that 5x7 art that I will do based on the duty, and you just say, can you do Doodie as Marvin the Martian, and I draw it.
Yeah.
And so I guess Vash the Vash the Destroyer, or Vash the Abager.
Mhm.
He's an anime character that I drew Doodie in. So yeah, so that's what's new about this. And I made this one simple because
Right.
it is the graphic novel, and so I didn't want 5,000. Like if you came to any of my previous campaigns, I would have like 15, 17 reward tiers. So I made it no more. So I simplified it this time, and then I made all the stretch goals physical stretch goals. So. There's an opportunity to get some really cool stuff. There's Doodie, fighting the Baron, and then Doodie as Avatar. So
Right.
yeah, so and then there are people who love keychains. So I was asked, can you do it, Doodie keychains? So all the knickknacks are centered around that iconic image with Doodie in the toilet,
Right.
which was the first cover I ever did for Doodie. So there's an enamel pin, there's a keychain, there's a sticker, there's a bunch of cool stuff.
So yeah, so then then the question is like, this is something that's always been I was been thinking about. Is there ever, even at the beginning, I don't recall him ever being in a toilet. So is there actually going to be like a climactic scene where he's going to actually be in somebody's toilet, or how does?
Well, in this graphic novel, you're gonna get a taste, right?
Okay.
So this graphic, that's where Bobby comes in, and this was where Patrick comes in, and so you're gonna get a taste of what's going on. So I can't give it away, but
Right.
yes, the toilet is the main
It's like
actor,
the
right?
goal. Like, yeah, it's
Yes,
like
yeah,
the
yeah,
direction the story's
yes.
heading. Yeah.
So you'll get a teaser in this graphic novel in issue 5, and then but the climactic episode is in the last 2 issues.
Right. Okay. Because you literally have two main characters here. You got the alien and the toilet. So
Yes,
like we've been following the alien the whole time. We're like,
yes.
when's this? Yeah.
And what I want to say also to parents, because one of the things that I see, what happens is people see the title and they automatically assume it's scatological and it's grotesque and all, has nothing to do with anything. It's about duty, and it's about
Right.
this kid. He's a kid just like any other kid, trying to find his way through life, and it's his story. The toilet is the punchline, and
Right.
you'll find out as we move forward.
Right. Yeah. What are some of the things that were in your previous Kickstarters that you just cut out because you said, you know what, this never worked. I'm not going to do it. And you would you give like advice to other people Kickstarters? What are some of the advice that you would give people that want to do a Kickstarter that you would say, whatever you do, don't do this? Or what would be some of those advice?
If you're new, um, don't do 5,000 covers, right? So if you do a variant cover, stick to one. Don't do more than that. You see people, they have 20 variant covers. I'm like, you're killing me, right? But and so don't do that. Don't go out and go and blow all your money on doing toys and all this other stuff. Don't do it. And hold off on paintings and original art until you've built the demand for you, and then because what happens is my art seldomly sells on a Kickstarter, but they fly off my table at a convention.
Okay.
Which I don't understand. So there's like a whole different. So when I'm at a convention, they look through because I have my original art portfolio with me at the convention, and then if they don't see something in there that they want to buy, they commission me on the spot. So and so
awesome.
For me, that's why I make the most of my money is usually through the original art at the conventions. But it doesn't translate for some reason on Kickstarter, and it's because I haven't cultivated a strong enough audience. And that's what I'm doing with the Art of Samuel channel on YouTube. That's been growing nicely. I'm over 500 now subscribers when I started off with 39 in December.
Wow.
So that's growing nicely, and it's an active community, which is fantastic. On a bunch of art platforms where I just communicate with other artists. So I'm trying to build my name out there that way, and then hopefully that group of people come over and support my products as well. Not just because I have fans that just love my art channel, right? Because all the vlogs and all the stories and all this other stuff. But they not necessarily want to go and spend money. So I'm trying to, have a happy marriage where I have the best of both worlds.
In 6 months, say for instance, what advice would you have somebody who's saying, Sam, I'm thinking about starting a Kickstarter in about 6 months or so. What should I start doing now to be prepared in 6 months?
First, make sure your book is finished. That's number one. Rule number one: don't even think about doing a Kickstarter unless it's finished. Right? I backed the Kickstarter 2 years ago, and I just got my book.
Wow.
Okay. 2 years ago, right? And so I'll never do that again, right? But so as make sure it's completed, and then what I would say you do is create a landing page and just start promoting your landing page. Build awareness around it. Join discussions. Try to get on some podcasts. Get your name out there. Make sure you have a social media presence that's similar wherever you go. So. Like, for instance, I have the Art of Samuel YouTube channel, and I have Art of Samuel on Instagram, right? So those two coincide. Cast of Craze, it's on every platform, right? So, you just type in Cast of Craze on Google, and you're going to get TikTok and Twitter and Reddit and Tumblr and MeWe and all these other things, right? So Cast of Craze is on like 20 different platforms. So, but what artists make a mistake is they'll say, Art of JT on Twitter, but then on Instagram it says Darian's Comics, and then on Facebook it's like watch me draw. And I'm like, how are people gonna find you?
Right.
So, create an identity, a brand yourself, and create some consistency across all those platforms. So make it as easy as possible for people to find you. I think that's the biggest.
Okay, that's a good point. Yeah. And so in order to make this conversation evergreen, for those that might be listening to this interview 6 months or a year from now, where can they actually buy the graphic novel of your volume 1?
Yeah, so once Kickstarter is over, it'll be available on doodiesworld.com. Once I solidify the distribution, then I'll release a press release on where, because the goal is partnering with a print on demand distributor that's going to distribute it globally. And so once I have that solidified and I have the orders in and I get that first invoice, then I'll be able to share who are the vendors and where you can get them.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and they could also, as you say, like in the show notes, we'll have a link to, your websites as well as that icreatestories.com, I believe is your.
It's doodiesworld.com. So
okay.
You type in I Create Stories, it's going to go straight to Doodie's World. So everything links to one site. I changed I Create Stories, and I just wanted to really focus. I Create Stories was all of my stuff, my kids' books, all that stuff. But right now I'm just focusing on Doodie, so it's Doodie's World.
Doodiesworld.com. Okay, perfect. Excellent. Good luck, man, and have fun at the Comic-Con.